Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. I'm Paul Davenport, Boast resident tech journalist, and today I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Ollon president and CTO Chris Ellefson. Ollon is a boutique agency specializing in custom software application development, working with teams to meet tight deadlines, strengthen their capacity, and rescue abandoned code. Their goal is to seamlessly integrate within organizations to fill skills gaps and extend in-house capabilities, offering flexible, fractional resources with specialized skills tailored to each client's needs. It's a mission that aligns very closely with the work that we do here at Boast, and we've been big fans of Chris and his team since we first connected in 2024, hosting and participating in pitch competitions for innovative businesses across Eastern Canada. But Ollon is hardly Chris's first foray into the tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem, as he's served as a tech lead and mentor at organizations on both sides of the border. Can't wait to pick Chris's brain on his journey as a technology leader and what's on deck for Ollon in 2026. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Very happy that you could join us, Chris. So now I mentioned before that we've been ships passing through the night, I think, for a little bit now. I first got in touch with your team when me and your colleague Susan actually co-hosted the Volta pitch competition. Might have even been in 2023, actually. And then I know that you and I crossed paths briefly up in Toronto when we both took part in the Code Launch Accelerator. But I'd love to know, how'd you get involved in the tech ecosystem in the first place? Why Canada? Why today? And yeah, just give me some background on how you got that entrepreneurial spirit sparked.
I've been involved in the tech industry since I graduated in the mid '90s and starting off as a software developer. Ended up moving up into management and held roles as technical architect and CTO at a small startup. And that position as a CTO in a small startup gave me the real interest in help being in the startup tech ecosystem, and I founded Ollon. Saw the need for fractional CTO work with at that point in time, around 2010, the ecosystem in Toronto had a lot of what are called micro startups, and saw a need for fractional CTO work, and some opportunities came up, and ended up jumping ship of my full-time job, and haven't looked back since.
I love that trajectory. So just to recap a little bit too, there were a lot of smaller startups that just really needed that kind of fractional help. Now, could you explain to me what you mean by micro startups, I guess? Because we talk about all the phases of growth constantly on this show, but I think you're tapping into something that a lot of our listeners will find themselves in, whether or not they've been characterized that way or not in the past. But give a little bit of a description into the nature of those businesses and how you supported them in your fractional capacity.
So what I'm referring to as a micro startup is one that would have like 2 to 5 people involved, generally a couple of developers, maybe one, maybe two or three, and they didn't have the budget to need a senior CTO involved in helping them out, but still had that need for strategic direction and making sure the development team they had were moving in the right way.
I like that. Now, I had alluded to there being a lot of kind of overlap in how we function at Boast and how I see you guys functioning at Ollon as a boutique software firm. Now, Boast isn't necessarily boutique, and we're not necessarily helping people actually create the products, but in the same way that we don't want to outright replace maybe members of their team, we want to make sure that they have the strategic resources that they wouldn't inherently find in-house, or that maybe they can't hire to bring in-house today. We're very niche in that it's very much around R&D tax credits, but that's a very lucrative program for businesses in Quebec. I mean, not in Quebec, in Canada broadly. We're working on a product announcement this week, so I am all Quebec in my head right now. But across Canada, we very much want to plug in to complement teams and make sure that they're not overextending their resources, especially when resources might be tight and every dollar counts, and you want to make sure that you're not only putting it towards driving real outcomes down the line, but also not throwing it away and necessarily like going with services that aren't going to make sure that you are coming to a powerful end. So I love that Ollon helps teams get to that place. I'd love to know a little bit about some of the projects that Ollon is working on today. I guess, how has the company matured? How has it grown? And yeah, just tell me a little bit about what you guys are working on now in 2025 and going into 2026.
So 2025 has been a big shift, and everybody knows AI is everywhere, and changes going on with both software development, but also the many industries as a whole are being impacted. So we both have some projects which we're helping companies implement AI, some of which in terms of integrating with the large language models for document ingestion and creating customized RAG databases. We're also helping out some companies with modernizing their software development practices to incorporate AI to help increase the productivity of developers.
I actually do like that you mentioned that incorporating AI into the processes themselves. So it's not necessarily just about building new AI products. It's using AI as a tool today to actually make your product development seamless, to actually develop the new solutions that you want to, using the best and brightest techniques. I know I'm going to be editing out something that I said earlier because I was mentioning a Quebec program specifically when I was trying to talk about broad-based R&D tax credits, but that's actually at the heart of the CDAE-IA transformation that Boast is focused on right now in supporting people in the Quebec province because they're specifically changing the traditional e-business tax credit, which was just for software development in the broadest sense, back when SaaS was basically AI before AI, when we're talking about buzzwords and jargon at shows, to actually talk about the practice of integrating AI into your processes. So all that is to say that sounds like Olin is on the cutting edge in terms of actually doing what governments want you to do, but also what is a best practice in 2026. Not just building for the AI moment, but using AI tools to help you build. So I think that's incredible. I think that's a good place to be in terms of where you want to be as a software boutique, because again, you have that expertise in the field, but you're also not just making a product for the sake of making an AI product. So love hearing that. Now, I'd love to know about some of the roadblocks that you guys have had. I know that we just alluded to it. AI is kind of the talk of the town. If you're not mentioning AI in one breath, people are going to wonder why you're not and why you're behind the ball. But what are some other roadblocks that you're seeing people who are building tech first companies or software companies even in 2026?
Some of the roadblocks with AI, I mean, one is expectations in terms of the idea that you'll have a turnkey AI solution that out of the box will all of a sudden magically fix things. The other aspect with rolling out AI projects is it's more of a change management difficulty than it is a technical difficulty. And with using AI, there's a mindset shift that's needed and a process change that's needed. So if you're a developer, you're going to end up writing more documentation and spending more time prompting and setting up structure for the AI to write code. And that mind shift is difficult for quite a few people, as well as it's a different skill set people need to learn.
Now, are you seeing, I guess, with the companies that you're working on today, when you're talking about the change management of it all, what are they maybe expecting when they're expecting the wrong thing? Just to get a little more specific when we're talking about these roadblocks, what is specifically the mindset that they're expecting AI is going to come in and just like do all the coding for them? Or how do you temper expectations, I guess? What's the secret sauce when you're trying to get these misconceptions whittled down?
I think in tempering expectations, it's really trying to lay out what it actually looks like to roll it out, which often involves not just the technology side, but also content and process, and trying to set those expectations up front that those have to go hand in hand with rolling out an AI implementation. If all you do is look at the technology, you're going to end up with a lot of false starts and hallucinations with the not having the right content in there.
I think expectations is the biggest thing. I think we're encountering that every day too, even just when companies are trying to say, "Hey, there's this new R&D tax credit mandate that AI has to be part of the equation." Some people are just completely still in 2020 when they're thinking about what that means in terms of like the content that you need to put in to actually have the power of that AI. So I'm right there with you. I think that that's something that everybody in the tech space can really latch onto and agree with. Now, I'd love to know, for Owen specifically, Both obviously, we're in the business of funding innovation, and I know that you guys are relatively new on the scene, but this isn't your first rodeo. I'd love to know about at Olin and any other business you've worked on, kind of how funding has come into the equation, whether we're talking about bootstrapping and actually building a business, whether we're talking about R&D tax credits specifically, or even just leaning on members of the community to not even fund, but help build the business. What are some of your experiences that you can maybe speak to in terms of building a business in Canada on that front?
I guess starting off, Olin is bootstrapped, so we've never received any funding moving forward. But we have received both SR&D credits as well as co-op. There's various programs for getting government funding for partial for co-op students.
Absolutely.
So the real important thing with it is figuring out what means you have. And we worked with many startups which get funding from VCs, and it's a double-edged sword where getting the funding from VCs, they'll often push you faster than is natural for your business, and have seen various clients who, as a result of getting, I'm gonna say, pushed too fast,
Mhm.
ended up not making it. So with funding in Canada, another difference with Canada versus the state is the general conservatism fiscally of the VC community, which is also can be difficult with making that next round if they need.
Absolutely. Nope, I think that makes sense. That seems to be a running theme when we're comparing the US versus Canada a lot of the time, is that kind of just conservative posture that I think, again, don't want to stereotype every Canadian business, but that I think everyone kind of starts out with. And something that's being broken down too. I think that we have a lot more ambition, I think, today in Canada than maybe we did a decade ago. I wasn't operating up there a decade ago, but it's what I've noticed just talking to founders who have been in the ecosystem for at least that long. So I just want to echo everything you said there. I think it makes perfect sense. Happy to hear you guys are bootstrapped. Obviously, that's the perfect place to be. But even I'd be remiss to just mention that businesses that whether they're bootstrapped or not, whether they got funding from investors or not, R&D tax credits like the SR&ED, like you just mentioned there, it's good for business because it shows you're doing your due diligence. It shows that you're actually asking the government to validate the innovation and then give you the money that shows that, okay, this was truly uniquely innovative because it passed the threshold to actually qualify for SHRED funding. And then that makes you more attractive to investors down the line. So little bit of a hack there. I don't even know if it's a hack, but basically wring every dollar dry that you can out of the government because it's validation that what you're doing is truly unique, which is then validation to investors if you go that route that this is something that's going to be game changing. This is something that is net new. This is something that even the government wants to get behind. So just wanted to tie that loop back to Boast a little bit because you laid it out so perfectly for me, Chris. But happy to hear about your funding strategy, and I can't agree more about kind of the differences between US and Canada, and also about the opportunity that Canadians have today in terms of just the government funding, but also those ecosystem partners. I mentioned it at the top of the show. We met you guys at Code Launch. I know we're all, I think, lead partners with Founders Better and Beta and my buddy Eric out in Vancouver. So we all lean on the community. So even outside of the funding, I think there's just a good ecosystem here. And I think it's fantastic that you guys are a part of it. And like I said, we've been very happy to run into you guys so far when we're just doing our roadshow across the community. So on that note, what do you guys have on deck for 2026? Are there any big events or any big initiatives that you're kicking off that we can look forward to and we can ask our listeners to follow along with?
In terms of big events, we're still in the process of figuring out our schedule for 2026. We're going to continue to be involved in the tech ecosystem as a whole. We're a member of PureScale, involved with True North CTO, and uh, have been a mentor at Founders Boost and plan to continue to do that.
I love it. Pure Scale, True North. These are all of our friends in the community. So I'm happy to hear that we're giving them a shout out here on the show. Now, I'd love to know, question that I didn't have on our docket before we spoke, but what's some advice that you would give to founders today going into 2026 who are maybe at the earlier side, whether they're that micro startup that was kind of the ecosystem that you got your start in the entrepreneurial community in, or if it is somebody who's just been trying to find their market fit? Any hacks, any maybe prognostications, and even just forecasting about what the next year will have in store and how founders in our space can kind of shore up their resources to make sure they're ready for whatever comes.
I would say that if you're a technology founder, technology is a tool for your business. I mean, has been that, has continued to be that. There's a lot of bright, shiny objects around. Now, it's important to both take advantage of what AI brings to make your business more successful, but also don't get caught up with the bright, shiny objects and really focus on how the technology can improve your business.
Again, it's Oh, it's of a theme with what we hear on this show, so I'm happy to hear you repeating it too, because it kind of ties back to that AI for AI's sake that I think everybody was latching on to, similar to SaaS for SaaS sake. Jargon comes, jargon goes. Don't follow the shiny object. Look for the real value and look for what can actually move the needle for you and help you build a business. So I think that's fantastic. Chris, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank Sue from your team enough. She has been a great advocate for the work that you guys do at Olin and has been a blast to actually run into in person a couple of times so far. And I just think you guys bring a lot of great energy and I love the mission too. It's you're literally there to just make sure that teams can shore up what they're doing and actually get it to a point where they're comfortable and successful and can actually latch onto that growth and really leverage it for the long term. So again, we're going to be bumping elbows for a while now, I think, in the ecosystem because we're really both focused on that unique innovation and making sure that founders and startups and everybody at every phase in the Canadian tech economy can make some success out of it and not be so conservative and maybe beat their drums a little bit harder and pound their chests when they're proud of their solution. So it's a great ecosystem. I'm glad we're both in it.